I wanted to feel better and go back to the life that I thought I usually could live.
It was very hard to watch Lydia go through this and feeling as a parent so helpless.
Pediatric low-grade gliomas are actually the most common brain tumor that we see in children.
When you go into brain surgery, you're never really sure.
Obviously, there's a lot that can go wrong and have serious implications.
Now I can face every day with hope and encouragement in knowing that I am able to do what I love.
This field brings back a lot of memories because you played a lot of soccer games.
Lydia is an amazing person. She has many talents. She's always been very athletic, very adventurous.
All the way across the field and scored.
Never afraid to try something new.
I think that's one of my biggest hobbies is getting on the field and playing with friends or training by myself. I love soccer.
But she's also very musical. And she always loved to sing and do theater, even from a young age.
My biggest hobby is music, obviously because I'm studying that in university, but in that realm of music, there's opera. I love to sing. I love to play the piano. I've written a couple songs because I love to write music. I think it's become a good outlet for me to create some songs.
Yeah, she's just a multi-talented young lady. So when Lydia was probably about 12 years old, she started having what at first we thought were flu-like symptoms because she had, bad headache and she felt nauseous and just, didn't feel like eating.
And by the time I was around 14 years old, finishing up my 8th grade year, I would be sick for the whole day and go back to sleep. And then next week I'd wake up again with more sickness as I was dealing with these symptoms that were not resolving themselves, even with rest and hydration.
It was very hard to watch Lydia go through this and feeling as a parent so helpless to know, what to do.
Well, I was playing soccer, but then I would have to stop doing those extracurricular activities because I would be sick. When we weren't getting answers from my doctor, I was starting to wonder, okay, what's wrong with me? If it's not the flu, then what is it? I wanted to feel better and go back to the life that I thought I usually could live. The doctor gave me a referral to a neurologist who did some vision tests initially, which is how they discovered my vision loss, which was a big flag to the doctors to send me to Children's because something more severe was clearly at work.
They knew that getting the MRI would give them clarity on whether or not that was actually what was going on with Lydia. And it was, a while after that, that another pediatric neurologist informed us very seriously that he didn't like to tell us this, difficult news, but that it was very clear that Lydia had a large brain tumor.
When I found out the diagnosis, I had a certain sense of calm. That provided a certain sense of relief because I knew that I had something I could work towards. My name is Lydia, and I was diagnosed with a pediatric low-grade glioma.
Pediatric low-grade gliomas are actually the most common brain tumor that we see in children. They arise from glial or astrocytic cells, which are a supporting cell in the brain, and result from those cells overgrowing within the brain and developing a tumor. They range from about 1,000 to 3,000 children being diagnosed in the US each year.
Initially, when I heard the news that what we were dealing with was a large brain tumor, it's a lot of emotions, it's a lot to process.
These are generally low, slow-growing tumors, and so it often does take some time for kids to come to medical attention as well. They might have visual loss, headaches that worsen over time, as in Lydia's case, where then she developed vomiting and came to have an image of her brain and find the tumor. Pediatric low-grade gliomas are diagnosed typically by a biopsy or a partial resection of the tumor. So when a child presents and is recognized to have a tumor, the first step is usually for them to meet a neurosurgeon and for the neurosurgeon to try to take out as much of the tumor as they can safely. That tumor tissue is then given to our pathologists who do special tests and look at it under the microscope to determine how to classify the tumor.
When they first discovered my tumor, we had one big surgery which lasted about 8 hours, where they went in and they removed as much of the tumor as they could safely, which was about 40 to 50%. Because of the location where it was, they couldn't remove any more without it damaging or potentially damaging a part of my brain, which then would severely impact the rest of my life.
Obviously, there's a lot that can go wrong and have serious implications. So I think as a mother, my greatest concern, or one of the things that I felt the most emotional about as I saw them wheeling her off, was that the daughter that I know and loved, the daughter that I knew and loved might not come out the same.
When you go into brain surgery, you're never really sure, but I had thankfully woken up the same.
As we were, able to just spend a little bit of time with her and talk to her, ask her how she was doing, and pretty quickly see that, yes, our Lydia is still there. The same girl that we knew and loved, and now hopefully on the process towards more healing.
After the tumor was removed and they were able to do a bit of a biopsy and figure out what kind of tumor it was, a pediatric low-grade glioma.
Genomic testing allows us to do a more specific analysis of the tumor DNA to look for specific mutations or changes in the DNA that are unique to a tumor as opposed to a person's normal genetic makeup. For pediatric low-grade glioma, as technology has advanced and we've recognized that these tumors have specific genomic or molecular changes, meaning the genes within the tumor had an error occur in a particular place that then leads to the tumor growth. BRAF is a gene, and it's a part of a pathway called the MAP kinase pathway, or the mitogen activated kinase pathway. And those are kind of cellular pathways which regulate cellular growth, and BRAF mutations often lead to overactivation of that pathway, which leads to this accelerated growth that we see in tumors. BRAF mutations occur across a variety of cancers, but about 15 years ago it was recognized that BRAF mutations occur quite commonly in children with pediatric low-grade glioma. And that really has led to advances in molecularly targeted therapy. The standard therapy for initial treatment still remains chemotherapy, and then subsequent therapy is guided a lot by the side effects of the medications, the age of the child, the location of their tumor. So it is a complex decision and often a shared decision with a family, but we want to provide them with education and information so that they can make an informed decision.
I'm just amazed at the science that has gone on and the drugs that are being produced that I think, that clearly helped Lydia in terms of her tumor and how it responded to it.
She's done very well with being off of the therapy that she most recently received. And our hope is that as she's grown into young adulthood, that we hope her tumor has entered that kind of final stage of senescence and will not grow again.
My vision loss is the one really remaining side effect that I'll have to live with for the rest of my life.
She does still have an impact from her tumor, though, in terms of her vision, and that will never go away. You would never know that when you meet her or see her, but when you examine her, it's quite impressive the degree of restriction of her visual field that she has as a result of her tumor.
Oh, nice. 2.
But even in that, being the tough girl that she is, she embraces the reality of it and she figures out how to work with it and how to manage her life and adapt because of this disability and not let it hold her back.
Anybody who undergoes something hard like this is automatically given sort of a perspective on life.
The end result, just even emotionally, in terms of how it builds your character, the character of your children, may be far better than you expected.
I'm incredibly hopeful for the future for children with pediatric low-grade glioma. There's been so many advances and there's still so much incredible work being done to understand and improve and hone the therapies that we have available. But there is still a lot of work to be done and a lot of children that still are not fully and effectively treated with the therapies we have. So we're hopeful about combination studies and new medications which may still be developed to help these children.
I can face every day with hope and encouragement in knowing that I'm able to do what I love and help other people to do what they love.